I can't wait to see him to tell him what's in my heart, that he killed our grandson. Obviously he didn't take a revolver, but he killed him.
A 74-year-old former French surgeon accused of the rape or sexual abuse of 299 victims is to stand trial in the country's largest ever sex abuse trial. Joël Le Scouarnec will face hundreds of alleged victims during a 4-month trial in Vannes, Brittany, which started on Monday. Most of the alleged victims were children who were patients at the hospital where he worked. Le Scouarnec does not deny the allegations, though he says he doesn't remember everything. He faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted, on top of the 15 years he has been serving after being found guilty of rape and sexual assault of children. He has admitted child abuse dating back to 1985 to 1986. Some cases couldn't be prosecuted because the statute of limitations had expired. Le Scouarnec had already been convicted in 2005 for possessing and importing child sexual abuse material and sentenced to 4 months of suspended prison time. Despite that conviction, he was appointed a hospital practitioner the following year. Because of processing delays, the criminal record check requested by the Health Ministry at the time didn't mention his past offences. Even after being informed of his conviction, health authorities and hospital management didn't pursue disciplinary action. In 2020, Le Scouarnec was convicted of rape and sexual abuse of 4 children and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. This case began in 2017, when a 6-year-old child said he had touched her over the fence separating their properties. A subsequent search of his home uncovered more than 300,000 indecent images, as well as notebooks where he described himself as a paedophile and detailed his actions according to investigation documents. The trial will examine alleged rapes and other abuses committed between 1989 and 2014 against 158 men and 141 women who were, on average, aged 11 at the time. His strategy was allegedly to disguise sexual violence as a medical act, targeting young patients who were less likely to recall what had happened.
No one can imagine this horror. No one. Today, I'd like to be able to move on after the trial. Really. Afterwards, I know it's a trauma that will stay with me for the rest of my life, but I'd like to move on.
Le Scouarnec's lawyer, Thibaut Kozawa, told Sud-Ouest newspaper his client will answer the judge's questions as he decided to face up to reality. The trial comes as activists are pushing to lift taboos that have long surrounded sexual abuse in France. The most prominent case was that of Gisèle Pelicot, who was drugged and raped by her now ex-husband and dozens of other men who were convicted and sentenced in December to prison terms ranging from 3 to 20 years. Child protection and women's rights groups see the trial as an opportunity to reaffirm that shame must change sides, not just onto perpetrators, but the systems that enable them.
What is the place of a victim in France? What is the place of a child's word in France? What are the mechanisms of silence? We can't go on for decades only to discover, dumbfounded, that pedocriminals are rampant on our territory.
Many hope this will be a day of change, where the tide turned in the fight against sex abuse. But for victims and their families, it's a day that means they might finally have some peace.